today's session is a free Q&A session. There's no presentation. It's just questions and answers. And I am very happy to say that Ainhoa Manero is together with us. Ainhoa is an expert in immigration lawyer from Sterna Abogados, one of the top immigration offices in Spain. I've been recommending Ainhoa for many years. She personally did my Spanish citizenship application. I am originally from Argentina. I got the Spanish citizenship thanks to Ainhoa's hard work. And well, thank you so much for joining the session today, Ainhoa.
Thank you for organizing this. I think it's very useful because me as a lawyer, I can see the doubts of the people, and the people can clarify any concept that they need to have more clear. So thank you for organizing this.
It's a pleasure. And of course, if you need anything related to immigration, you can see here, just write Sterna Abogados on Google. You'll find the website. You can see they are experts in citizenship, Spanish citizenship, not only just the normal means, but also for dual citizens, for example, Cuba, Puerto Ricans, any Ibero-American country, Philippines. They know the ins and outs of this procedure for citizenship in only 2 years, fast track, student visas, long-term residencies, non-lucrative visas, in all the U.S. Consulates, U.S., Canada, U.K., Australia, you name it. They have experience in all these consulates. And why I say this, because as you probably know already, every consulate is its own kingdom or even planet. They're so different. So you need someone who really knows the way of working. Also, digital nomad visa. You can see here, applying from consulates abroad or from inside Spain. Yes, Sterna can really help you with anything of this. And yes, they're ready to jump in and help you out. Maybe you can do just a consultation, 40 minutes, 1 hour. And if you're happy, also, they can go with you all the way for any of those procedures and more. So yes, that's about Sterna Abogados and a little bit about Spainguru.es. Spainguru.es is a huge community, many Facebook groups with 150,000 aggregated members. We have 6 free webinars every 2 weeks. We have a newsletter read by 15,000 readers every single Monday. All these services are free, and you can also find a very useful step-by-step move to Spain checklist that tells you what to do starting 1 year before moving to Spain. This is the example of starting 12 months before, and what you can do, everything explained with videos, with articles, you name it. It's very, very complete, and all of this is absolutely free. You will just obviously pay if you engage with professionals that I highly recommend, and I have personally vetted over the years. So that's about Spainguru.es, and let's go with the questions. Just one thing, when you ask a question, please add a question mark at the end of the question, so it's easy for us to see that you asked something, and we can publish it for everyone that has that to read. Okay, so this is an example, right? The first one. Let's start with the first question. This is related to the Spanish digital nomad visa. I am applying from the DNV within Spain, but my husband is unable to get a tourist visa. Can I still include him in my initial application? And if I'm approved, is he approved at the same time, or does he still have to apply at the consulate?
Okay,
That
very
one's
good
for you, I know.
question. Yes, so yes, you can do the application at the same time, but he will have to go to the consulate. So when you get the resolution, okay, in your resolution, because you are applying from Spain, it will say that you can go directly to fingerprints, while in his resolution will say that he can present this resolution to the consulate in order to get the visa. So as you see, when you are outside, you always, during the application, I mean, if you are outside, you always have to go to the consulate. But yes, you can apply from the beginning for everyone, and then he will go to the consulate to get the visa as a family member. Yes.
Great. I'm also adding questions from Spainguru community members that are sending me the questions by email.
Okay.
I feel like in yes, a stock exchange receiving orders from my customers. Fantastic in different ways. So yes, let's continue with the next question. There you go. I am a US citizen and I was born in Cuba. If I apply for the NLV, can I apply for the citizenship after 2 years?
Yes, of course you can. Okay. You need to prove that you have the Cuban passport or citizenship because you were born or your parents were born in Cuba. So no, the law, what the Spanish law, what makes a difference is if you are by origin, we call by origin because you are born, or maybe if your legislation says that because your parents were from that nationality, or by residency. What you cannot be is Cuban by residency, okay? But if you have the passport by origin, yes, you will be able to apply for the passport, the Spanish passport, in 2 years.
Exactly.
Yes,
And just to add
exactly.
some more information, I'm going to be copying here a link of a video that I recorded with Ainhoa and also an article that talks about it. And Ainhoa can explain this is a recent ruling that
Yes.
confirms this situation. Can you give us a little bit more
Yes.
context?
So sometimes, and you don't need to freak out, okay? But sometimes there are denials, okay? So what Bruno was showing that is in the website is a ruling because we had a very similar case with two nationalities and it was denied, okay? We did the appeal. That's what we are here for fight for your rights. So we did the appeal and we won the appeal, and the Spanish nationality in the end was granted to our client, and was these kind of cases in which you have dual citizenship, which is very, very common. And it's true that there's been a period in time that they were being denied. But as you see, if we appeal, it's granted. That doesn't mean that they are going to deny it. But there are some periods always in immigration in Spain that suddenly there is someone new, maybe in the institution, that they change the criteria or there are mistaken in the criteria and there are denials. But when there are denials, there are appeals that are granted. That is our job. Maybe because we have had approvals without an appeal before and after that ruling. So that doesn't mean that if you are dual citizenship, you have dual citizenship, you are going to have to do an appeal. Maybe it's granted from the beginning, and that is the most usual thing.
All right, let's go with the next question. This is about non-lucrative visa. We applied for our NLV on September 17th in Mexico City and have not received a response or update. On what date should we consult an attorney because they are taking too long?
Yes, well, I'm now in Mexico. I have a lot of clients in Mexico and they are taking very long. They used to resolve it in a month or less, and now they are taking the 3 months. So that is not strange. For you to understand the legislation, after 3 months, you can consider that is denied. That doesn't mean that is denied, they are delayed, okay? But you can consider that is denied in order to do an appeal if you want to speed up or do something about the process. But normally, I wouldn't be worried about, because it's now like the normal time in Mexico is now 3 months.
All right. Okay, so this one is one of the questions I received by email by Bob sent it. And it says, how long in days do we have to pick up our TIEs, or tarjetas de identidad extranjero, the residency cards, after we receive notification that they are ready to pick up?
So look, the problem about this is that nothing is applicable. It's not applicable the timing to do fingerprints and the timing to pick up the TS, because this is with appointments. There are no appointments. Okay, I have clients that in 3 months they haven't been able to pick up their TS. Okay, because there are no appointments, especially in some cities. So what I recommend, so we always have the criteria of a month, okay? But even cities, some cities are saying like come in around 2 months because everything is very delayed. So you are not going to have a huge problem if there are still 6 months of validity in your residency, okay? When I've seen that they don't give it to you, is when there are less than 6 months of validity. And that also depends a little in the police, but normally, of course, if you haven't done fingerprints and there are less than 6 months, they will not give it to you. Something different is to pick it up, okay? Normally they will give it to you, but they could put some problems if there are less than 6 months. And my recommendation always, when it's taking long to do something with the administration, is do screenshots that there are no appointments, okay? So if they put any problem to you, you can prove, hey, look, I went 3 times in different dates and they were not appointments. So that is not my fault that I haven't came yet. Is that there were no available appointments. That is always safer to do. In any case, they know it, okay? They know it and they are not putting problems. I do so because I'm a lawyer and I have to really make sure that I'm really covered for every situation that could arise for my clients.
Next one from Bob as well. And by the way, I'm going to give you a little context about Bob. He applied for NLV at Miami Consulate. I have a video where he's talking about it. And one of the questions he had is, his wife had a back surgery, I think a few days ago. And he was asking whether they could, they obtained the NLV, but whether they could enter Spain after the initial 90 days of their visa validity. The visa, it was with a 1-year validity, but since we were cautious about recommending people to enter Spain after the initial 90 days, he was asking this because of the wife's surgery, right? This is the context, but he's asking here, is it possible to work my wife's Padrón and TIE as she had surgery and not able to travel to Spain for a while? So I believe there's a typo here. Rather.
Let me clarify something. If we are talking about Padrón, okay, and for digital nomads in Madrid, because you can do fingerprints.
But this is a non-lucrative visa.
Okay, it's a sorry. Okay. So for the non-lucrative visa, she shouldn't have any problems because, as you say, the visa is for a year, okay? But she has to come to do the Padrón. So you cannot go in advance and you do the Padrón before she comes. But whenever she comes, she can do the Padrón and she will be able to get the NIE. Just in case, I always thinking if there is any problem. If there is any problem, just in case, bring the proof that she had a surgery and she couldn't come for some time, okay? But she shouldn't have any problem.
Yes, of course, all the medical records, just to explain and prove that the situation was, was due to medical situation. All right, let's go with the next one. Jason, sorry for the long question. My partner and I want to move from San Diego to Spain. but we can't find a visa that will work for us right now. We don't make enough to qualify for the DNV, Digital Nomad Visa, and we still need to work, so we cannot do the non-lucrative visa. We've considered the autónomo, okay, but we don't think we have good business plans that would qualify. We could maybe do a student visa with a language intensive, although the tuition seems pretty expensive. Is there an option that we're missing, or is doing the Schengen shuffle our best option at this point?
No, you did a good like outline of what you could do, and yes, it's true, the student permit is always a good option, but it's always expensive. Studying in Spain with a course that qualifies to a visa is expensive. What you need to know is that there is a like a paragraph in the criteria for the nomads that says that if you don't earn enough money, those 2,500 euros per month, you can complete that with savings. So maybe that is your best option from reading your summary. So of course, I don't love that situation. I like to go with a little stronger case, having the 2,500 at least salary or well payment from clients. But it's true that the criteria says that, and it's true that I had already some approvals. So maybe if that is your situation, it's worth it to try it, because it's already considered the situation in the criteria for nomads. So I think you could be successful.
All right, let's go with the next one. Is it true that you cannot get a non-lucrative visa if you have a mortgage in the US? What if your mortgage balance is $300,000, but you have over $1 million in savings and stock investments?
Well, very good question. It's not really true, but what is true is that some consulates are applying this criteria in which they are saying that you cannot have a mortgage. I always fight these situations, and what you are saying is a very good example. So what I say when they put these problems is that we should be able to prove that we have enough money to pay the installments of the mortgage, and have those 30,000 euros in savings, or 40 if we are a family, in addition to the payment of the mortgage. Okay, so you are saying also that you have in a stock market investments. Be careful with the investment products. Okay, what I always explain is that you need to prove also the conditions in your investment products, and the stock market is something that is not stable. Okay, so the consulate can say, okay, today you have this money, but tomorrow you cannot have the money, and if you read the law, it could have some support that kind of criteria. So my recommendation is take out the money that they ask for the non-lucrative, depending on how many you are in the family, and put it in an account. Okay, because in the account doesn't go down, in the stock market go down. And with another other kind of investment products, as I said, we have to read the conditions and prove that you will have that money whatever happens. Okay, the minimum, I mean, the
Yes.
30,000.
And also, well, I could just add here, this is the non-lucrative visa page for the Los Angeles consulate. This is the famous consulate that includes this
Yeah.
criteria. Really, there are no other consulates, per my knowledge, that have this criteria of like you shouldn't have any loans or mortgages. And still, also at LA, a lot of people reported to have shown a mortgage and not they didn't have any problem, and or people said that they weren't asked whether they had a mortgage or not and still didn't have a problem. But it is rather erratic. Probably depending on the person reviewing your case, they're going to be more or less strict about this. So, with what I know I was saying, I guess framing or structuring the way you show your fundings is the best way you can do it. The separating your funds that are liquid, readily available, that they will not change according to the market in one account, and then that's what you show for proving your financial threshold. So yes, let's go with the
Exactly.
next one. You want to add anything, Ainhoa?
No. That's that.
All right, let's go with the next one. Make sure to add a question mark at the end of your questions, so it's easy for me to publish your questions for everyone to read. Oh, Robert, we reviewed your video on the first 10 things to do when you arrive in Spain. Is the order of your listing important? We know we need the empadronamiento and TF first. Okay, so for context, this is the video. It was published today. And yeah, it comes also from an article. Always in the description, I have the article, and you can read here the different steps, and they are somewhat chronologically ordered, but they don't have to really. I mean, for the sake of simplicity and SEO purposes, of course, I put step 6, step 7, but really they overlap. You can do several of
Yes.
those things parallelly, okay, and you don't have to wait. So the faster you do it, the better it is. But definitely, there's some truth into how they were chronologically arranged. And also, I have to say that those steps will depend on your personal circumstances. It's not the same if you move as a retiree or if you move with your dogs. Okay, if you have dogs or pets, you will have to do certain things. If you move with your family, you will have to do certain things that people who move without families don't have to, and many other things, right? But these are some, let's say, general guidelines of things that need to be done, like declaring your entry if you didn't get a stamp because you came from another Schengen country, getting an empadronamiento, or registering your address, and so many more things, right? Opening Spanish bank account. So yes, somewhat chronological, but of course, take it with a pinch of salt and apply your specific circumstances. And of course, add the things that are missing from that list because of your specific circumstances. Let's go with the next question. Let me see. Oh, wow, there's many more. There you go. Do you need to have a Cuban passport, or is the birth certificate enough to apply for the fast track?
I think you need to have the passport. I haven't been successful. They end up, and now they are very strict. Okay, they are asking for a lot of like clarifications in the applications, especially of traveling, like because they are trying to find out who is not really in Spain. They are becoming more picky with that. And I think you need the passport.
This is something that got stricter over time.
Yeah, they are becoming stricter. So, for example, there was a season some years ago with Venezuela that really was a problem. They didn't have paper to issue passports. This was something that we all knew, and we did. Immigration took steps in order to be able to renew permits, immigration permits without passport, but this was not acceptable for the nationality, okay, because you have to make a difference. So the immigration permits are one thing, applying for a Spanish passport is another or institution. Okay, so for example, this was a good example. In the case of Venezuela, was possible to renew the permit so they don't become irregular without a passport, but they couldn't apply for the Spanish passport without the Venezuelan passport. In that case, this is Cuba. which will be the same.
And for Ainhoa, because big part of the audience are Puerto Ricans who actually don't have a passport per se. They have a certificate of citizenship. How does
Exactly.
that
That
work?
case is different because that case is different because doesn't exist a Puerto Rican passport. What they have is the certificate of citizenship of Puerto Rico, and that is what we need. We need the American passport with the certificado de ciudadanía from Puerto Rico. But that is the only case because it's the case in which they don't have a passport for Puerto Rico.
All right, let's continue with the next one. I want to know if I can apply for a digital nomad visa if I own a company and I am the legal representative. I am the company manager. Are the requirements the same as those for a freelancer?
Yes, yes, are very similar. So what you need to, when you show your own company, okay, what they check a little more is the movements of the company, okay? So you will have to show what are you getting paid from the company in dividends or in salary, depends in your case. So you show that in your bank movements, from your bank movements. But when they see that you also have the company, they want to see the movements of the company. So it's not really just a strategy and the company doesn't have an activity. Okay. So you will have to show also, in addition to the articles of incorporation of the company or the certificate of existence, you will have to show also the bank statements of the company showing that the company gets paid by clients.
Yes, actually, in my digital nomad visa webinar, this is something I warn people is that in 2025 they got a bit stricter about submitting for this visa, owning your own company, because it happened in the past that people just bought companies off the shelf, but really those companies didn't have actual activity. They were zombie companies just for the purpose of applying for this visa. So what the authorities want to make sure of right now is that you're really having activity with that company. The company is real
Exactly.
and is operating.
But
Next one.
it's a very common situation. So I don't know, 70% of the nomads that I do is with their own company.
Perfect. When your NLV is granted, how much time do you have to enter Spain? You still have a 3-month deadline within which to enter Spain and apply for the TIE?
So, okay, very good question. First of all, always check your visa, okay? The visa has a duration, of course. They are going to issue it for a year, but check it because imagine that they get mistaken, there is some mistake, and there is for 3 months. Then you have to or come in 3 months or fix that mistake in the consulate, okay? But what you have to have clear is in the regulation it's not mandatory to be a year more than 6 months per year in Spain in order to renew the nomad. This is something very good for nomads, okay? But what they want you is to be really doing the activity, especially if you have to become a freelance in Spain, okay? You have to do so in the maximum, we say always in the first 3 months, and they are checking, okay? So they are checking if you got the nomad permit and you committed to enroll as a freelancer because maybe you were a W-2, an employee, and you didn't have to do so. But if you committed to do so because you are a freelance or the owner of your own company, super maximum 3 months. I always recommend one to be safe, but okay, 2 months could be normal, even 3. But don't wait more than 3 months to enroll in the what we call agencia tributaria in the tax office because are really checking and canceling digital nomads. So maybe you
Next
don't
one.
come, okay? Maybe you don't come. You are even not coming, but enroll. So you can hire a lawyer, a gestoria to do the process in order to be able to enroll. The problem is that if you haven't come, normally in order to enroll in the tax office, they need an account, okay? So, and it's always a little difficult to open an account from outside. So in the end, it makes you come, but maybe you can come to fix all the arrangements and go back. You don't have to stay.
All right, but yes, just to clarify, that is for the digital nomad visa. Yes, because initially the question was for the non-lucrative visa, and then you also mentioned digital nomad visa after.
What? That's the okay, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, but
So
this
for
is a
the
new question.
if
This is
it's
a new
for the
question.
non-lucrative, yes, you can come all around the year and you don't
This
have
was
to
the
do
question. The question
enrollment.
is for non-lucrative visa, but then
Yes, sorry.
you started mentioning an related issue that is happening with the digital nomad visa, but
Okay.
specifically for this user who is
Okay, yes,
asking
sorry.
for this viewer is the non-lucrative visa. Yes, can you enter Spain after the initial 3 months if they got
Yes.
the visa valid for 1 year?
Yes. So we said this in some other videos. It's true that there is no new clarification about this, but the visa is granted for a year. So you should be able to enter all around the year. And I'm using this as a strategy for people that want to have a way to come like quick if something happens, if I don't know, the political situation in their country got worse, but they don't really want to come directly. And I'm using the non-lucrative visa, getting the non-lucrative visa for a year, and they will come whenever they want. It should be fine.
Very good. Follow-up question. If my partner and I are going to Spain on a tourist visa to explore where we might want to live and our income changed so we could apply for the DNV from within Spain, are there any documents that we should make sure to get and bring with us before we leave the US?
Yes, all the documents, but especially the criminal records, okay, the FBI one with apostille, the marriage certificate, that is very recommendable to bring an updated one, a new one with an apostille. Okay, the articles of incorporation of the company that you are working for, but especially what it takes longer at the FBI criminal records and maybe also the marriage certificate. It doesn't take longer, but bring it with you. Normally, the articles of incorporation of the company we could do in an easier way because in almost every state is electronic. But if you ask me, and what I recommend to my clients is to bring as much as possible. Maybe don't do the translations because that can be done quick in Spain until you know that you need them, that you are going to apply, maybe to save some money. But the main documents, articles of incorporation of the company, is my recommendation to bring them. And of course, criminal records with apostille and marriage certificate with apostille.
And also remember that they have a certain validity period. So when you
Yes,
apply, they
but
have to be valid.
of course, sorry, but the good thing about the digital nomad is that they are accepting criminal records from the last 6 months. Okay, so I always recommend to get it a little sooner than a little in some days before you come, and you will have plenty of time because you know that as a tourist you can be only 3 months if and the criminal records it takes 6 months, but of course you cannot get them now and come in 8 months, they will not be valid.
And also, well, you need to be very organized and meticulous about all the paperwork. This visa, people describe it as a minefield, so everyone uses professional help to apply for this visa. I would say like 95% of applicants, because you have to be very careful. how you structure the application, because it will really depend on the way you apply. If you're applying as a contractor or as an employee, depending where you are coming from, because not every employee from any country is being accepted right now. So you have to be preparing this very careful. It's not like, oh, I came to Spain and, oh, well, I took the chance because I was here and I applied for it. You really need to organize it months
So
before
of
you do it.
course I have had clients that they didn't bring anything and we prepare everything from here, even the criminal records, because there is a way to do fingerprints in Spain and send it to the US, but it's a little bit more complicated, slower, and you get more stress. So if you ask me, I will bring everything. But of course, we have helped people that, I don't know, they were here and suddenly they decided to stay, and we have to do everything from scratch from Spain. But it's more difficult and normally more expensive to do everything quicker. You usually use some companies that get the documents quicker, but it's always a little more expensive.
Also, this person mentions that they said their income went up at the very end, let's say, or lately, income changed. But I believe that you need to have you need to be over the financial threshold for at least 3 months. Is that correct?
Yes, it's true, but we can also defend. Imagine you are an architect. I don't know. Maybe you are paid suddenly for a project. I don't know, 12,000 euros in a month. We can we can defend that situation, which is not the best one, okay? But it could happen that you increase a little and in an average, you get the average, and you can prove the 3 months average, okay? Which I like to give to immigration everything like as easier as possible, but not every time is that way. So imagine that now they are earning 2,000 and suddenly in the last month they earn 5,000. If you get the average and it's okay, I would try it. Yes.
Let's go with the next one. Also about the digital nomad visa. Can a spouse of someone on the digital nomad visa get a work permit to work in Spain for a Spanish company?
Yes, I always say that it's better to be a family member with the digital nomad than the main one, because you know that the principal, the main applicant, has a limitation of the 20% of the income from Spain. Okay, so that is the limitation that you can have. But the family member doesn't have any limitation. The family member can work for a company as an employee, can be a freelance, and have all the clients from Spain. So it's a perfect permit, the family member one.
All right, let's go with the next one. Just to confirm, once I receive my approval for the digital nomad visa from within Spain and having included my husband in the application, does he just present the approval to the consulate and receive the visa the same day, or will
No,
he have to wait a long time?
it's not a long time. Okay, the regulation says 10 days, but the problem about these 10 days are the appointments. So, okay, 10 days from the moment that you submit, but if the appointment takes 20 days, you have to wait that extra 20 days. Okay, and this person will have to go with the resolution and also with criminal records. Okay, because you don't need to submit criminal records in the application if your husband is outside, but he will have to submit that in the consulate.
DNV, I am currently a W-2 employee, but plan to change to 1099 when we move to Spain. Do I need to show 3 months of 1099 work, or is a work contract okay?
So really, you have to show this is the law and the practice. So in the law, you need to show the situation, the 1099 for 3 months, okay? But sometimes they don't understand very well if you are getting it as a salary, as a W-2 or as a 1099. But it's true that you have to submit the contract, okay? So, and the contract has to have an antiquity as a 1099 of at least 3 months.
Going back to the non-lucrative visa, we waited 5 months for a non-lucrative visa from Mexico.
Oh, wow, you see?
This is why we're interested in switching to the digital nomad visa. We're tired of waiting. Yeah. How long can this non-lucrative visa process take? What can we do?
So I haven't been waiting for 5 months. That is really too much. In this case, I think you need to contact them, and I imagine you have done it, and see what is the problem, because it's not very normal, 5 months. And of course, if you have the chance to switch to then because you know that you can say that you resign to the non-lucrative, you get back the passports, and you can come and do the digital nomad from Spain. Of course, you can you can do an appeal. You can go to the court and say, hey, I've been more than 3 months waiting, okay? So I can consider this denied and make the court to approve it, but it's not quick. The problem is that going to the court is also going to be around 6 more months. That is the problem.
Going back to the non-lucrative visa, should we try to obtain an appointment for our padrons in the city? And this is by Robert, who asked the questions about empadronamiento and TIE because of the wife's surgery. Should we try to obtain an appointment for our padrons in the city we will arrive in before we leave the USA? Same question for the TIE appointment for fingerprints.
It's always recommendable if you more or less know that, because in the end, if you are not here, you can cancel them. But if you more or less you know when you are going to be in Spain and you see that there are appointments available, yes, it's very recommendable, because it's difficult to get appointments in Spain right now. They have to fix that.
Jason, thank you for your answer. Like you said, I've heard that if you're applying for the digital nomad visa and you don't meet the minimum income requirements, you can use savings, but more than about €200 difference isn't advised. Is that true in your experience?
So there are no established criteria, really written criteria about the quantity. €200. That is, I think, something that a lawyer or an advisor is saying to be close, which I like also to be close or over the money. But I wouldn't say that 200, yes, you can do it, and 400, you cannot do it. No. There is nothing published and nothing that we can follow saying that is the maximum that you can cover with savings.
Yes, that figure, I mentioned the figure in my webinar because, but it's an approximation and it's an average.
And I would feel exactly better if there is 100 to 200 than 1,000. But I will not say you are not going to be accepted because you are missing 500.
Also, people say that if you move with kids, okay, with more dependents, they tend to be more flexible and, increasing the share that you can prove as with savings, right? This is another thing that they say, but as Ainhoa mentioned, there is not a clear rule. This is just from experience from people who apply, and that's what generally they say: €100, 150, 200. People say 5% maximum. I've heard it all, really.
That will be great if they put a percentage, a quantity. It will be safer for everyone, for us as lawyers to advise you and for you as applicants. But there are nothing written about this.
NLV. If we have enough in savings for the NLV, but we want to work in Spain on the local economy, is that possible before finding a job?
No. So in order to have a work permit in Spain, you need to have a job offer, okay? Or a job offer, or if you want to be a freelance, submit the project as a freelancer. So before finding a job, you will not be able to have a work permit. Okay, the only possible way is with the digital nomad that they allow you to have an income at least of the 20%, maximum 20% from Spain. But normally this is designed, okay, in Spanish design, they give you a work permit if you have a job offer. So what you can also do is come with a non-lucrative and then switch to a work permit. But you can switch or to highly qualified worker because it's a job that demands a qualification and has a salary of 42,000 or more. You can decide that to do at any moment, or for a normal job, waitress, whatever, after a year, but always with a job offer. We always need the job offer.
Oh, driving license. You've mentioned getting a Spanish driver's permit, but for the first 6 months, we can use our USA driver's license. Do we also need to get an international driver's permit to have with our USA driver's license for the first 6 months? So probably this is related to video that I published on Friday, where I interviewed Shaheen, my wife and co-founder of
Mhm.
Spainguru.es, because she recently went through the hassle of obtaining a Spanish driving license. Of course, she's been in Spain for 15 years, but the rule says that you can use your origin country driver's license only during the first 6 months. And then, depending whether there's agreement with your country to exchange your original driving license for a Spanish one, or you will have to go through the whole process. This is the case of USA, right? Now, the question goes for the first 6 months. Do I need also an international driving permit? Well, I think the rule says that you need to have your origin country driver's license and the international driver's license. Okay, in the USA, you can obtain it from the AAA. The only thing is that it takes several weeks to obtain, and this is generally something that maybe people don't think, until the very end, and they have the date of moving very close, so they panic because they didn't take enough time in advance to order their driving license that they can do online. Okay, I think you pay, I mean, don't quote me on that, but it's $40 or something, and AAA will send you the international driving license. Then there are other companies, okay, private companies that can give you like an online driver's license. If you need that, you can find on Spainguru.es, but it is not widely recognized everywhere in Spain. But it has the advantage that it is fast. Okay, you just receive it in the moment, and that can help you, for example, renting a car, because also many people report that if you don't have the international driver's license, you can't rent a car in some rental companies. Some of them will not make you a problem if you don't have the international driver's license. Okay, so there is the rule, and also there are some practicalities in that. I personally would recommend that you get your valid and accepted international driver's license, and you start that process at least 1 month before coming to Spain. You have it, you use it during the first 6 months, and then if you have the US driver's license, you will have to go, unfortunately, through the process of obtaining a Spanish driving license via the theory exam and practical test. Follow-up question. Robert, if I have a power of attorney from the USA, English or
No.
translated, can I work the empadronamiento or the process before my wife arrives in our on our NLVs?
Look, if you really want to do the empadronamiento, you can try to do it, but with her passport. If she gives you so you can travel with her passport, and because what they need is to see the passport. But of course, you should do the empadronamiento and go back and give her the passport. Okay, I don't think it's worth it, and not always works. If there is someone very picky to check the stamp, it will not work. And but for sure, with the power of attorney, no, what they really need, it could be a normal authorization, but what they really need is the passport. Okay.
All right, this is about the Los Angeles consulate and about translators. I'm late, so I don't know if this has been addressed. I'm a bit confused about translation services. The Los Angeles consulate provides a link to the American Translators Association, ATA, for translation services. But I can't find a translator who meets Spain's requirements. Impossible to get a response from the LA consulate.
So this is very simple because there is a complete list of the Ministry of Affairs. Maybe it's in your website, Bruno. I don't know.
Yes, exactly. Yes, this is, Miami consulate and Los Angeles consulate. They mention the American Translator Association, but really the sworn translations can only be issued by sworn translators, traductores jurados in Spanish, who are appointed by the Spanish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have their unique registration number, and they can do the translations fully online. Okay, so you don't have to send overseas any paper documents. You just scan them, send them by email, ask when they can deliver and what's the cost, and then you will receive also a digital version with their stamp. And then that's what you print out, and that's what you submit or what you add to your filing, right? So the American Translator Association is something else. There can be, American translators there, but they were not appointed by the Spanish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that's why it's very confusing and somewhat misleading that LA consulate and Miami consulate mention this association. So there's basically two ways. You can work, for example, with Ainhoa, okay, for your application or your non-lucrative visa application or digital nomad visa. And Ainhoa has an in-house sworn translator that will sworn translate every official certificate that needs to be sworn translated. Okay, some documents don't need to have sworn translations. They can have normal or regular translations. Okay, but official certificates and for the UK medical certificates, you also need sworn translation. But basically, if you go to Spainguru.es, you go to services here, immigration, sworn translators. Here you can find my recommended sworn translators. Okay. And all these sworn translators, I have been recommending them for several years, personally vetted by me. Excellent reviews, 100%, 5 stars, so stellar reviews. So yes, you're in very good hands. Sorry, let's go for the next question. Says this is answering to a previous question. Do I need to register my company in Spain for Social Security, or is it just me as a self-employed individual? And this is
just you as a self-employed. So of course you can also register your. This is the solution really for the W-2 that now again they don't accept the certificate of coverage of the U.S. What they ask immigration is if the company register here in Spain and they enroll in Social Security here in Spain is also valid. But in your case, maybe it's just more simple to be the self-employed as what we call autónomo in Spain, self-employed as an individual, but you have both options to do.
Spain announced they are updating or automating all immigration processes in 2026. So it is standard across all offices and consulates. There's a significant backlog right now. Do you expect this new process will make it easier / faster?
Yes, of course, and really all the improvements that they have done during the last years, last 10 years, they really had improve a lot the situation, like the timings and the ways to process everything. The problem is that in these last 10 years of new laws and new ways of application, the consulates stay the same. So I'm really looking forward to this unification and better procedures, because really in my case, my most problematic cases or slower cases are in the consulates. Yes.
What do I do if I can't get private health insurance? I have two chronic conditions that require no treatment and no medications. They are not serious, only chronic and annoying. Insurance quotes have been prohibitive, if coverage is available at all.
What I've done in these situations is doing, sometimes I've done a digital nomad, because they were normally people that were interested in a non-lucrative visa, but it was difficult to get the private insurance, and they had the chance to get the to prove also conditions for the digital nomad. You know that with the digital nomad, if you are a freelance, you enroll as a freelance in Spain, and they give you public health. So it's a good strategy if it's in your hands to show that you can be like working remotely. If not, you know that you can get the semi-public and semi-private one. Semi-public or semi-private, it's the same. I think it's more correct semi-public. After a year, for example, in Madrid, is after a year. I saw that in some cities it's even sooner. The problem is, what do you do during that year? You know, you have
Well,
to
this
think
person is
in.
saying he got coverage, but prohibitive, right? So
Yeah,
super
exactly.
expensive.
So
So
if you can afford
if,
to get
yeah,
it for a year at least, or even I've seen that, for example, I've seen in Alicante, for example, I saw that a client that got a non-lucrative visa, and directly they gave the public health insurance. It's not
using the convenio
really
especial,
clear if it's a mistake, but
but using the convenio especial.
no, just directly public one, not even paying. You know, I think in
That
some
is a
cities
mistake.
they just saw that they had a residency, a valid residency, and they give the public health, which is not what the law says. Okay,
Right,
but this is
exactly.
what happens in immigration. Normally is for bad things, but this is for good things. In some cities, they see you that you have the residency, and they give you the public health. Okay.
Also, this person doesn't mention when where they are applying from or for what visa, really. But imagine if you are a UK retiree, you could use the S1 form that grants
Sure.
you access to public healthcare system and can be used instead of providing a private health insurance certificate. Now, another thing that comes to my mind is that if you have the option to get, even if it's very expensive, but you can afford it for the first year, a private health insurance that will be compliant with your visa application, then after 1 year, generally, unless, as Ainhoa says, unless an exception, you can apply for the convenio especial, which grants you the possibility to pay for access for your public healthcare system, and then you can use that coverage for obtaining like treatment for every pre-existing condition, right? And then you could just stop getting your private health insurance, and then you would have had to pay the first year. But in practice, in most provinces, contrary to what I know I was saying, generally the experience is that it takes several weeks or even months after the first year. And people who were counting on that, they had to go for the first NLV renewal, and potentially they have a gap in coverage
Yeah.
because they didn't renew their private health insurance. So in my opinion, for what I read in the community, count on having at least 2 years of private coverage, just to make sure that if you're applying for NLV, I don't know what you're applying for, during the first year renewal, you don't have any healthcare coverage gaps for the sake of renewal, right? After that, you're good and you can use the Convenio Especial and then get out from private health insurance without problems, okay? And having also gaps in healthcare not only is a problem for the renewal, but also if you want to go for the long-term residency later on, having gaps in your coverage also is an issue because it could be a reason of denial of your long-term residency. If I'm not wrong, I know.
Yes, it's true.
Brilliant, thank you. I have another question. If you have to stop work before you apply in order to get the P45, so this is UK applicant,
Yeah.
or the HMRC document to prove that you've stopped work if self-employed, and then you don't enter Spain until 6 months to a year later, can you go back to working in your home country prior to leaving?
Well, I assume you can, but it's not the correct thing to do. So really, what the non-lucrative expect from you is not to be working, okay? So it's true that it's more difficult to them to detect that when you have the visa granted. But you can always have little risk that they review your case or they want to check again that you are not enrolled in your country, and it could make some problems.
We will be applying for the digital nomad visa for my husband. What does the process look like for me applying as a dependent?
As a dependent, you just need to show also criminal records, the marriage certificate updated, okay, a new copy with an apostille, and really have the financial means, so your husband can prove the financial means enough to have a family member. And really that's also, so a family member doesn't need to prove education or really financial means. You can, but your husband can prove it for you. You just need to prove that you are the family member, okay, that you, and that you don't have criminal records.
All right, next one. Robert, great answer to make appointments for our empadronamiento en TIE before we arrive in Spain. We will work on those approximately 2 to 3 days after we plan to arrive in Spain, if appointments are available. Sound reasonable?
Yes, of course. What you need to know is that it's not as easy as sometimes we think if we are not familiar with the process, in which, especially for immigration, okay? I mean, uh, to choose the calendar, get the calendar and get the days. In immigration, they give you just 3 appointments available. And if those days appointments are not good for you, you cannot check others. You need to wait and the next day or in the afternoon check again if there are new appointments. It's not as easy as picking a day in the calendar, which would be perfect. For the empadronamiento, yes, you can do that. You have more options. Yes.
How long does the appeal process take for a non-lucrative visa denial, assuming that the client does meet the prerequisites and it was a mistake by the consulate?
Doesn't have a specific time. So, there are 2 appeals that can be done. The first one is to the consulate. It's an administrative appeal. And the other one is to the court. Normally, it's a little quicker at the consulate, but it's less likely that they really approve the appeal, okay? So I've seen appeals approved in 1 or 2 months at the consulate, but is really it's if it's something from criteria, it's going to be difficult. Like, for example, think of the mortgage, okay? If they tell you you shouldn't have a mortgage, that is something that I think is more likely to be approved in the court. But if it's something that they haven't checked correctly and is underlining what they haven't checked correctly, maybe yes, it's a good case to go just to the consulate, and in 1 or 2 months it should be approved. But also depends a lot in the consulate and also in the moment that you do the appeal, because as I say, for example, Mexico for non-lucrative, not appeals, but non-lucrative, normally was taking 1 month. Now it's taking, I said 3. Another person here said that it's been 5 months. So it changed a lot.
Oh, this is a follow-up. Thank you for your response to my question about the health insurance applying for the NLV through LA Consulate. I'm not really interested in working. I will continue to have health insurance here in the US through my retirement, and I will go back annually see my current dentist and doctor.
That is a perfect scenario, but the problem is that for the non-lucrative, you need the coverage in Spain that covers everything. And as you said, it's expensive. So it's not that you can say to they should change that, I think, but they haven't changed that. You cannot show, okay, I'm covering the US. I don't need as much. I can have an Spanish private insurance with some co-payments or some exceptions. The problem is that they will not accept it. So the problem is that in your first year, you have to get that expensive insurance. And after a year, the best that you can do, what we say is maybe the private, the semi-public one. But you need to be covered for everything in Spain in order to get the approval.
Also, I don't know if you went to Spainguru.es, and here I have an exclusive Adeslas agent that can send you a non-binding quote if you're interested. I don't know if you already got in touch with him, but he can send you a non-binding quote and check and compare to the quotes that you received, and potentially could be a solution for you. Let's go to the next question. We're a family who lived in Spain previously for 14 years and were fully enrolled in the Social Security system. If you have medical cards that were issued in the year 2000, at that time we were told they were valid for life. Would it be possible to use these again in the first year of a non-lucrative visa, or would this lead to problems?
No, so the Social Security law has changed several times, and if you are not working anymore, or you are not a retiree in Spain, you don't have Social Security. Okay, but you have, that is the general situation. You have to check with Social Security in Spain, because maybe there is I don't know, because you've been 14 years, okay? Maybe you are entitled to get the retiree benefits and have Social Security. But just because you have a card, it was not something, it's not going to be something automatic. You have to double check. And if you are not in certain situations, you will not be covered. But you can double check that with Social Security.
Exactly. Social Security can issue a certificate that states whether you are covered or not. And in fact, depending on where you move, because the different health, how do you say, departments are by regions, right? So there are like 17 regions in Spain. So you have like 17 different ones. And they are more or less relaxed about this, but the law is, as Ainhoa says, like if you don't pay Social Security, or you don't show a certificate that you're a retiree somewhere else, and you have access to it, then you are not covered. But depending where you move, they can be more or less flexible with the type of treatment that you can receive. For sure, if you have an emergency in Spain, you'll be covered wherever you are in Spain, right? And they will not even like charge you for it. Yes, but
of course, but
right?
the problem is getting the approval of the non-lucrative.
Oh yeah. Well, oh yes. Forgot about the end of the question. Yes, the approval of non-lucrative visa. Yeah, that's a different question. I was just talking about effective access to healthcare once
Yeah,
you're in Spain.
going to Social Security once you are here in Spain. But the problem is that in the consulate, in order to approve it, they are very tough with the health insurance.
That's right. Next question. I am purchasing an apartment in the Salou or Girona region, and I would like to rent it long term until I retire in 2 years. Are there any issues with renting long term, 1 year, or under 1 year? Also, what is a tourist license?
So in order, you can do it. You don't have any problem to be in a non-lucrative and be renting an apartment. So you are the landlord, I understand
This
here,
person
right?
doesn't mention if they are non-lucrative or not. This person is a new person
Ah,
asking
okay.
question.
Even as just an investor and you don't have a permit in Spain, you can also do it. Okay. The tourist license is maybe Bruno can explain it better, but yes, it's a license because not every apartment can be rented for tourists or for short term. I think you mean that for like the Airbnbs as short term rentals. Okay, so for the short term rentals not every apartment can be rented for short-term rentals. You have to check in your city and in your area of your city what are the regulations. And I think you are referring to that, right? What do you think, Bruno?
Well, there are a few things here, okay? And this is just about buying a property in Spain. So, first of all, you need a NIE number, okay? As a foreigner, you need a número de identificación de extranjero. You can just go to a consulate and say, I want to purchase a property in Spain. You pay 10 euros and they give you a NIE number, okay? And with that number, that's the only requirement. Then, of course, you need to have the money, find the property, and buy it in Spain, right? But that would be the only, let's say, paperwork that you need from a, let's say, immigration perspective. Okay, you would buy a property in Spain. Then the second consideration is, are you going to live in Spain? Yes. And are you going to be a Spanish tax resident? Yes or no? There are three conditions. If you spend more than 183 days physically in Spain in a calendar year, you will become a Spanish tax resident, and you will have to pay taxes as a resident in Spain for the income that you generate, worldwide income, not only for rental income. Second option is you don't become a Spanish tax resident, okay, and you will be paying on your income generated from within Spain. If you rent it out, it's going to be, if you're a non-EU passport holder, you will be paying 24% flat income tax on the rental income generated from that property in Spain. Now, that's for long-term rentals or mid-term rentals. That is all the rentals that are not vacational. What is a vacational rental? It depends on the region. For example, in Andalusia, every rental that is below 60 days is considered vacational rental. In other regions, everything that is below 30 days. So depending on the region, it's going to be different considerations. As Ainhoa mentioned also, by city, there are regulations. For example, in Barcelona City, they don't issue any vacation rental licenses since 2015. So 10 years, right? In Malaga, recently, they got stricter. Certain neighborhoods don't issue any licenses anymore, and now they want to cover the whole city. Okay, so there is an open war against really about against vacation rental platforms like Airbnb or Booking.com. So you really need to check it out, and then obtaining the license. Yes, it is a process, and now also the government issued another requirement, which is the número único de registro, for properties rented on a short-term basis, that you need to do it at the Colegio Registradores. So a lot of paperwork. So yeah, definitely you need to learn about all this if you're gonna execute this plan. Yeah. So immigration or paperwork, tax perspective, and specifics about renting out on a vacational basis on those specific areas. So I don't know what how things are in Salou or Girona region. So yeah, you need to find out. And I don't know if I'm leaving anything out. All right, more context. Yes, I've been to Spainguru. I believe I contacted Carlos for a quote. Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you for doing so. Um, Another question. If we have a large amount in savings and stock investments and want to apply for the non-lucrative visa, is it okay? We still have student loans. For example, if we have over $1 million, but 30K in student loans.
I always say that this should be okay. What I always say, the same with that with mortgage, is that you should be able to show that you are able to pay the installments of the loan, and in addition have the 30,000 for the non-lucrative visa or the quantity relative to your family members. Okay, so of course they could put problems, but really the law doesn't say anything of not having loans, and being able to show that you can pay the loan, not the whole loan, but whatever you have to pay that year, plus the quantity required to the non-lucrative, it should be okay.
Perfect. So I got some comments, not really questions. People are thanking so much for your time, Ainhoa, for answering all the questions. And someone says, we mentioned before about the driving license and international driving license. Says, I got my international driving license at AAA on the same day I walked in. That's great to hear.
I read it when you were explaining this, yes.
That's fantastic. It's not the feedback. I'm just repeating what others have said. Maybe they ordered this to be mailed to their homes or anything. And I remember that people had to come to Spain without having their international driving license. But you mentioned walked in, so I guess you went physically to one AAA office and you got it. So fantastic. That could be a solution. Maybe we were talking about someone who was not in the States and wanted to go to Spain and had a US driving license, and they didn't have the possibility to walk into an office of AAA. So that also could happen. So it really depends on your personal circumstances, the nature of the answer. So fantastic. People are just thanking for everything in the chat and for our time. I'm just checking out if there are any questions, because the software requires that you have a question mark at the end to publish the questions for everyone to read. And but I think we're not missing anything. We've been here for an hour and 20 minutes, so I think we went through everything. Really appreciate everyone who joined today. I'm going to send you a recording. I'm going to be uploading this to Spainguru's YouTube channel. And of course, if you're watching this, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions for me or Ainhoa, please comment in the comments below, and we'll do our best to answer your questions anytime you ask them. Okay, so I think we're done for today. Ainhoa, I really appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you to everyone for participating, and have a nice day, because in Spain at least it's holiday. I wish you can enjoy a little the day.
Fantastic. And for people who join later on, I want to mention that, Ainhoa Manero is an expert immigration lawyer from Sterna Abogados, one of the top immigration firms in Spain. You can consult with Ainhoa and members of her team for anything related to Spanish immigration. That includes citizenship application, dual citizenship 2-year fast track, student visas, long-term permits, different types of visas like non-lucrative visa, digital nomad visa, work visas, entrepreneurs law, etc., arraigo. So everything basically related to immigration processes. And not only they do immigration, but also they partner with, for example, tax lawyers, because as I know many times warns us, those two things need to be aligned. Immigration and taxes, they need to be aligned, and you have to know exactly what to expect if you're planning to move to Spain in those two things, immigration and taxes. So she can also put you in contact with her recommendations. And yes, you're in very good hands. just search Sterna Abogados on Google, and or go to Spainguru, and you're gonna find that she's my top recommendations right here. And you can also contact her directly here on Spainguru, right? So spainguru.es/consultation. So very easy. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Wish you a great beginning of the week, and see you around. I'll send you the recording
Thank
later on.
you.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Bruno. Ciao.
Ciao. Oh, and one more thing. Apparently, YouTube says you're gonna love watching this video right here. I think you should watch it.